if you listen to what I have to say today, it will completely change your life. So many of us have been taught, interestingly enough, not to think. We've been taught by the school systems, by the child prisons, as many of us have experienced, to only do the task. No creativity, no daydreaming. You didn't get this answer right. It's because you're not paying attention. Well, I'd like to submit to you an idea that could set you free. There's actually a proper way to think. There's a proper way to conceive thoughts. There's a proper way to sit in and imagine before we speak into existence. You see, so many of us are controlled by our minds and by our thoughts, and we believe that every thought that comes into our head is us. And oh, I can't believe I thought that. Oh my gosh, where did that come from? Well, I want to let you know that not every single thought that comes into your head is from you, nor is it from God. You see, sometimes our brains just make stuff up. How many of us have ever done a cold plunge before? If you haven't, I highly recommend it. Just get a bowl of ice or a bowl of water and put water in it, and then put your hands in it and sit there for 4 minutes. If you have a health condition, obviously don't do this. What you'll find is at the beginning, it'll be really, really, really uncomfortable. But then as time goes on, it stops. Is it because our hands suddenly went numb? No, it's not long enough for that to happen. Hypothermia hasn't kicked in. What it is that our mind stops freaking out and relaxes. See, I recommend everybody do this because you can learn, oh my goodness gracious, how many other things has my mind been sabotaging me from and keeping me from? You see, not every thought that comes into our mind is ours. That's why Paul says, bring all of our thoughts under the submission of Jesus. Now, how do we actually think? Well, it's actually the same 4 steps that God used to create everything. So the 4 steps for creation are purpose, intention, challenge, and imagination. Where do I get this from? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. All things come from purpose. All things come from purpose. It is the source of all things. That's why the purpose of God is pre-biblical. He had his purpose before he made creation. But then second, his intention. This is the investment of our energy, right? In this case, God created the heaven and the earth. That was his intention. His intention is the investment of invisible resources and transforming them into physical resources and creating all of this for a promise, which I believe is the promise to his son, that all of this is an inheritance for his son, for his marriage soon to come, because God's never going to die. So he was going to have to receive an inheritance at some point, right? So there's intention. It's the same thing with us. When we invest our mental, our physical, our financial, and our spiritual into God, incredible things happen. Third is challenge. You see, whenever we set out to do anything worthy, we will always face challenge. Always. How do I know this? How do I know that 100% of the time that you go out to do something amazing, you're going to face challenges and obstacles? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void. Satan tried to destroy the earth. If God faces challenges and difficulties, we're going to face them as well. But let me give you the good news. The good news about challenges and difficulties that we face is that without challenge, we cannot have opportunity. There would be no opportunity on earth without challenge. I think that's worth going through a couple challenges. To have the opportunity to glorify our Father in heaven, to glorify Jesus. Number 4, imagination. What happens when that invisible inspiration comes in and we transform it into something incredible? An incredibly important verse is Matthew 12, 36 and 37. And so this is actually going to reinforce these thought patterns, these thought processes. Because everything that we do should be based on 2 fundamental questions. Question number 1, how do we please God? How do we please our Father? How do we please the King? We have to ask him verbally. We have to ask him, not just approach him as though there's a layer of separation between us and him, as though we would go up and ask our father, or if you didn't have a good father, ask our mother. If you didn't have a good mother, ask a friend. If you didn't have good friends, the person that you wish you had in your life, what it would be like to go up and talk to them and ask them, what do I need to do to please you? Question number 2, how do we serve the people he has called us to serve in a way that pleases him? Because remember, what's the purpose of all things? What's the purpose of all things? The purpose of all things is the pleasure of God. All things are made for his good pleasure. Good, bad, or indifferent. All things are for the pleasure of God. I'll throw you a freebie. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. We should give God the opportunity to claim vengeance. I know that a lot of us will want to reap vengeance and avenge all the things that ever happened to us or to our families. But I want to present something to you. So many of us only think, well, God's just going to forgive them. Maybe. Or maybe God takes vengeance. Either way, it's for his good pleasure. And do you think God might be able to avenge you a little better than you would? No matter how dark, we'll say, you desire that consequence to be? I'd leave it to God. I think he's got you. The imagination, the thought processes, the communication, how God wants us to think and process, right? Dude, is what we're about to say, is what we're about to do, is it pleasing of God? Are we setting whatever's about to come out of our mouth toward the intention of pleasing God and serving the people that he's called us to serve? Here's a challenge. Too many of us just let the words just pour out of our mouth. How many of us have ever said something that we wish it came out, we're like, no, wait, come back. All of us. There's the challenge. Are we going to rely on ourselves, or are we going to rely on pleasing God? Are we going to rely on God? And then imagination. Believing that he's going to give us divine inspiration, that by his promise he desires good things for us, and that he will never leave nor forsake us. No matter what, in nothing, he will never leave nor forsake us. And so having the faith that we're going to receive inspiration to change that inspiration into physical transformation. Here's the verse that will reinforce this thought pattern, this thought process, how to change our life, how to change our mindset. Matthew 12, 36 and 37. But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Now we have guardrails. If we don't know what to think, we don't know how to think, we don't know if there's even a right way to do it, we've just been doing it a way for so long that it's just like, it's the only way I know how. Sometimes we just speak idle words because it makes us feel good. Some of us are just so addicted to our thoughts that we just want the music to keep playing in our head. We just want whatever to come in. Or some of us hate thinking so much that all we want to do is distract. Social media scrolling, pornography, watching the sports game, going to movies, going out, and drinking, drugs. Every word, not just some of the words, by every word, we will be justified or condemned. We're going to give account thereof. Whether or not we're covered by the blood of Jesus is ultimately irrelevant. We're going to give an account no matter what. And it's going to be a public account. It will be before all people. It's going to be public. When we sit before the judgment sheet, it is not going to be just us and God. We'll judge the angels. Oh yeah, all of this is going to be public. Now we at least have a place to start. How many of us knew that there's actually a way to think? How many of us knew that God gave us a way to think? That he laid out steps for us to think? No, I didn't. I had to discover this. I had to be pointed in the right direction. If you go in and you read Genesis 1 and 2, Genesis 1, 1, 1, 2, that's the exact formula. It's actually up to 3. Here's the exact formula. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. His purpose, for his good pleasure. And I like to think that also for an inheritance for his son Jesus, for his marriage. 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved across the face of the waters. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved across the face of the waters. What was the intention? Transform invisible resources into the physical. Everything that you see is made out of the invisible. Can you see atoms? No. Okay. For simplicity's sake, all of this is energy and atoms, which we can't see. Cool. That's the intention. What's the challenge? There will always be a challenge. Will we serve ourselves or will we serve God with the things that are going to come out of our mouth, with the thoughts that we think, with what we design and what we create and what we imagine? And the earth was without form and void. That word was there is to become. The devil came to destroy the earth. And the Spirit of God moved across the face of the waters. Here's something that's really interesting. The moving across the face of the waters is accurately represented as like brooding, like a brooding hen over her chicks and over her eggs, which means there was much fluttering back and forth over the water. You see, I know oftentimes we use the word meditation for like, oh, I'm going to think about it, I'm going to meditate on it. The thing is that meditation is actually a passive exercise. What's far more beneficial, what's far more transformational is activating our imaginations as opposed to sitting in meditation. Activating through creation and being creative, which this can look a variety of ways. This could be writing, this could be playing an instrument, this could be reading, this could be any number of things. There's not like one way to do this. But there is much fluttering. God imagining. Okay, there's darkness upon the face of the deep. It's without form and void. What do we need? What do we need? Ah, that's right. And God said, let there be light. The first solution ever created in existence. The first transformational solution to a challenge. And here's what's interesting. And God saw the light that it was good. Out of the challenge came opportunity. And that opportunity resulted in something good. You see, when we put parameters, when we put boundaries, when we put guidelines on legitimately our most powerful source, like our superpower, our energy, right? We put boundaries on it, right? It becomes laser focused. It becomes laser focused. So that everything that we're doing provides a clear channel for God's inspiration to flow through. Because here's the problem, and frankly, it's not your fault. The devil wants to make sure you do not have a clear channel for God to work through. Because if we're not intent on pleasing God and serving his people and using everything we have for his good pleasure and for his service, well, how is God's inspiration going to block through all of that? The only thing that can stop God's inspiration is us. He designed us that way. One of the most interesting verses in the Bible, to me anyway, is how Jacob earned the name Israel. He prevailed over God. Like, he prevailed over God. And this is God telling Moses this. Yeah, Jacob prevailed over me, and therefore I gave him the name Israel. He who will rule like God, for he strives with man and with God and prevailed. That's not the exact wording, but basically, like, he did battle with both princes of the earth and with God and won. Which means, like, yeah, we have the ability to stop God. We have the ability to prevail over God. We are the only one who can stand in the way of our blessing. Because he made us in his image. We have that level of power within us. You know the part of you that he made in his image? Your imagination. And so when we start thinking and living according to our purpose, which is the pleasure of God, the pleasure of our Father, serving the people we're called to serve according to his good pleasure, and we pour everything into it, and when we make sure that whatever comes out of our mouth is worthy and is pleasing of God and serves the people around us, and even the people we have not yet met. If you do YouTube, for example, or any sort of social media content, and then allowing that channel to be open, where we don't have to create on our own. Here's a nice thing. Here's a beautiful thing. Has there ever been a child that has been created without God? No. He always helps us create that which is most important to him. And the mission that you were called to accomplish, that's what's most important to him. And he only designed you to accomplish your mission. I can't do it. Your spouse can't do it. Your mom, your dad can't do it. Your children can't do it. Only you can accomplish the mission that God designed you to accomplish. And so who's the best solution maker? Who's the source of all goodness? Who's the most powerful? Who knows the plans that he made before he created all of this? Plans for peace and not of evil. Plans for prosperity, plans for riches and not of poverty. Plans of financial riches and spiritual riches. Because our God isn't a God of either or. He's a both and, abundance and riches type of God. You see, when we use our imagination in combination with his inspiration, nothing is impossible. It's an image of us becoming one with Jesus. The inspiration of God and that which makes us us, forming together and becoming one. And so we actually can't even effectively use our imagination, our most powerful tool, our superpower, without the power of God. It's like having a light bulb, but no electricity. Yeah, a light bulb can illuminate the room, but if it doesn't have the electricity, it's just an empty vessel. It's just an empty container. This thought process will turn you from an empty vessel into a vessel full of God, where you will be able to transform his inspiration, because he designed you to do it. He created you to do it, to transform. Subdue the earth and multiply. Transform what I've given you into something even greater. Keep it, protect it. Make sure it grows. Our imagination. When we conquer here, we can pull our power from here. Out of the treasures of the heart, the mouth speaks. And here's the thing. A lot of us, our treasures are stuck right here. Stuck right in here. And so we're never able to speak from the treasures that God desires to give us. You see, we're designed to solve problems. We're designed to solve challenges. And you know what? If your challenge changes the world and changes and transforms a whole bunch of people's lives, your name's going to be made great off of that. You're going to be famous. And you're going to be very, very, very rich. The biggest thing, don't stand in the way of God's pleasure. Don't stand in his way. If he's desiring to give you a solution, to inspire your imagination, to create a solution that will transform the world as you know it, riches and fame are going to come as a result of that. He wants you to use it to glorify his name. Riches and fame are not bad. Money and fame are not bad. He desires to make your name great. He desires to make your wealth and treasures overflow, both spiritually and monetarily. Money is good. Money will buy your freedom. I appreciate you guys. God bless you. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray that your riches are multiplied, your abundance is expanded, your wealth is strengthened, and your prosperity is mighty. By the blood and in Jesus' mighty name, God bless.